I consider David to be the Robert Davis of Michigan. Robert Davis developed Seaside in Florida, the first new urban community in the country. Since '78, David has been developing and building estate homes, first in the suburbs of Detroit, and then branching into projects outside the state of Michigan. Through his companies Woodline Design, Inc. and Kitchens by Jensen, David has been awarded various national distinctions of excellence of design. Woodline Estates and Bingham Farms was developed in cooperation with noted architect Robert A.M. Stern of New York. It won the Builders Magazine's House of the Year Award. Jensen also developed Westwood Commons, shown here in Beverly Hills, Michigan, and it was awarded as the best place to live in metropolitan Detroit by the AIA in 2001. Jensen is renowned for his integration of land planning and development of a pattern book for houses that creates a unique combination of visual continuity and coherence. Jensen is a member of the Planning Board in Beverly Hills, a longtime member of the Planning Board, and I've been very grateful to have Jensen as a client. Please welcome David.
Robert alluded to the fact that Robert Davis was a guy who developed Seaside, and of course, the one thing that Robert Davis and I may have in common is that we both were doing something other than these sort of projects before we did that. Just to create a little context to this story, I had spent the last 20 years before I got involved in this project doing luxury high-end houses, and I met Robert Gibbs as a landscape architect doing site planning, and we were doing these very large houses. And if you've ever worked on large houses, and I mean, they have a life of their own, and after you've done about 10 of those, you're ready to do anything but that. And so I visited Seaside sort of rather than having a life crisis. I went to Seaside just as a vacation. Robert said it'd be a good idea. And we went down there and I started walking these neighborhoods. And life is sort of like a full circle. I was raised in Ferndale on a 50-foot lot with a front porch. And all of a sudden I thought, oh my goodness, this is really remarkable. And so I looked for an avenue to apply some of the things that I was really wanting to do. And so this project, let's say this, everything about doing this, the decks are really stacked against you. I mean, the code, the communities are really opposed to this sort of thing. They just don't understand it. And so this, I was contacted by a person who, do you have a,
yeah, we do. Pointer right there, that red button.
Okay. So I was contacted by a person that lived right here, and that family had this one sliver of lot, which actually backed up to a river that sort of winds through this sort of thing. And she said to me, would you be interested in developing a piece of property? I've got this house, and my mother-in-law lives on a house which was right here, and we own the vacant piece of property which is right here. And oh, by the way, there's an older guy who I think is going to leave and retire, and he lives in a house right here. Whoops, go back to that. And so, you know, obviously the complexity of tying up a piece of property and keeping it intact while you go through the process is arduous. One of the things that Robert Davis said to me before we did this was that the difficulty that he saw is that most projects were too large in scale, and that's usually why they failed. So this was simply an application. We went first before the Planning Commission, and we asked for approval. And we proposed 23 houses on 5 acres, and they thought we were simply from the moon. And this is the 5 acres. And in order to do what we did here, we had to go out and find neighbors who may want to participate, and we ended up incorporating this particular house right here, neighbors who would stand in the back room, and we made a deal with them to incorporate them into the development. The stone house, which was right here, and oh, by the way, 15 years ago, it was purchased for $150,000. And when the development was done, and in 2006, this alone sold for $950,000. They had a road to go, a driveway that went out to the main road, and we incorporated them into development through a inside road right here. And then, so we were struggling, and we were having trouble having people understand, the Planning Commission understand what we were trying to do. So I printed the ordinance on very large boards, and I would take them into the community, and I would read it verbatim, and then I would ask the question, and I would show how we were complying with every single thing that was within the ordinance. At the end of the day, we were approved on a 4-3 vote, so there's a lot of resistance, but that was just the beginning. We went out and we tied up 5 more acres, which is this piece down here, and in all we had 7 different separate parcels in order to accomplish this. Now, if you ask me why this worked, well, 1997 was a time when almost anything might have worked. It was that kind of time. But one of the things that we did was we were so enthused about this opportunity is that we actually set up an office. Oops, sorry. We set up an office, and it was right here. We were the developer, we were the builder, and we were the architect. Now, those are the 3 ingredients that I think are critical to making something. We controlled this project. We started with a pattern book. We never did a model. We began to sell immediately. We never advertised once, and we never really had a sign out in front. But within a 3-year period, we built and sold 20 new houses, and we incorporated this space right here, which was an acre piece, and this piece here, and a piece down here, which was all contiguous through a piece of land back in here. But that essentially was what happened. Now, what's interesting about success is it usually leads to failure. I mean, it really does. So somehow, because this went so well, we thought, well, gee, we could take this on the road and do this again. And so in 2001, we tied up a marina piece of property in Harrison Township, and we introduced the same basic concept and idea, and it was an absolute failure. And so we asked the question, why was that? And then we should have known, because there were no Starbucks there. Yeah, there really wasn't. So, but what's interesting is the confluence of a concept. This piece of this land plan is absolutely brilliant. It puts 20 houses, economically speaking, on 750 feet. So our sewer, our water, all on 750 feet, and essentially we built alleys behind. There's an alleyway back here, picks up the garages here. There's a gazebo right here. There was walking trails that we built. We did a detention pond right here, turned it into an asset with a fountain at the end, and then we did a walking trail, which took people through the woods here, all the way through, and basically ended up here. So we really had 10 or 12 acres of nature. So we had the best that we had town and we had country, all going in one time. So, but I think what the takeaway would be was that essentially, I mean, we developed these plans as we went. We had architects on staff. we built all these houses, we controlled our cost, and the efficiencies were just really built in. So I think this is really kind of a unique and very novel, difficult to repeat. But I think one of the things I've learned, and we're in Beverly Hills, which is really down the street from here, there's a desperate need for pocket neighborhoods. This is a very useful application for a series of pieces of property that really nobody wants. And if you go up and down main roads today, in our vicinity here, you'll see an awful lot of 2, 3, 4 acre sites that could be converted into a very useful project. Now, we're working in Beverly Hills and we've just begun the idea of really trying to look at cottage architecture as a possibility. But these houses were really luxury in many ways. Some of these houses along here were 3,000, 3,600 feet. There were only two houses here that were first floor masters, this one and this one. We thought we were going to cater to a first floor master crowd, and it wasn't at all true. but I really believe, based on this and some of the other things that we've been doing, that there's a really big need for smaller houses on a pattern like this, where there's open space and there's a park and there's a sidewalk such as this. And I think economically this was really a home run for us. It was really a very special time and place. Next slide. And there was an ordinance. If you go to Seaside, you see, when you go to Nantucket, you see these wonderful enclosed gates and fences. This community prohibited any kind of definition of that sort of stuff, so we had to fight that battle. Eventually won. And our typologies, where we were doing the Charleston sort of side entrance, and then we had a colonial which had 4 bedrooms up. That's it. Back one? Yes. All right. Any questions?
Did you do this under a planned unit development?
A cluster option. We had to prove, our first obstacle was that we had to show that we could use this conventionally. So we had to put in a road and put in the sites and so forth. And then we were enabled as a result of that, and that set our density, which was 20 new houses. And so we did the pattern around those 20 houses. Pretty big obstacle, actually.
Okay, thank you, David.
Welcome.